Hey, deep divers. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and get ready. Because today we're diving into a relationship
Oh, yeah.
that's more tangled than a bowl of spaghetti after a toddler's gotten through with it.
I like that.
We're talking about Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh, boy.
You might think you know the story, but even if you're a seasoned politics junkie, I think you'll find a few surprises in this deep dive.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, their paths crossed for decades, from the glitz and glam of New York to high-stakes real estate feuds, and ultimately a public and very controversial distancing.
It's not just about two rich guys,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's a window into power, social circles, and the art of the spin.
It is.
So buckle up, because we're going to unpack it all starting with the early days.
All right.
2002. Trump's giving an interview to New York Magazine, and he drops this little gem about Epstein.
Okay.
He says, terrific guy. He likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side.
That quote has aged about as well as a carton of milk left out in the sun, especially considering what we know now about Epstein's crimes.
Right.
But what's really fascinating is that back then they were practically joined at the hip. Sources describe them as each other's wingmen.
Really?
They were close. Maybe a little too close.
Okay, so picture this. Trump and Epstein, two of the biggest names in New York.
Yeah.
Right. Rubbing shoulders at all the exclusive parties, flying on private jets, living the high life.
Yeah.
But then things get a little complicated.
A little complicated. They ended up in this knockdown, drag-out bidding war over a lavish Palm Beach estate
Oh, wow.
called Maison de la Métis.
Fancy.
We're talking major real estate envy here. It wasn't just about the house. It was about ego.
Oh, yeah.
Who had the bigger bank account, who could outmaneuver the other.
So they're going head to head,
Yeah.
each trying to outbid the other. I bet they were bad-mouthing each other to potential sellers.
Oh, absolutely.
It sounds like a scene straight out of Succession.
Right. The article we're looking at says each of them actually tried to convince the seller that the other one couldn't even afford the property.
Nope.
Yeah. In the end, Trump won, though. He paid $41.35 million,
Wow.
which was way more than Epstein's final bid of $38.6 million.
Ouch. Talk about a blow to the ego. I bet that did not go over well with Epstein.
Right. Like, you just bought a house to spite me.
Exactly. So what happened after that? Did they ever patch things up?
Well, this is where the timeline gets interesting. After this very public, very expensive real estate showdown, there are basically no reports of any public interactions between them.
So the bromance is officially over.
It seems that way. The real estate battle was a turning point in their relationship. And it wasn't long before whispers of Epstein's darker side started surfacing.
Okay.
Trump has said many times that he banned Epstein from Mar-a-Lago because of Epstein's inappropriate behavior towards a young woman. And a 2007 New York Post article even backed that up.
Okay, so now the story takes a darker turn. We've gone from terrific guy to a potential ban from Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
This is where things start to unravel.
Yeah, and it raises some questions. Was this alleged ban a real attempt to distance himself from Epstein's behavior?
Right.
Or was it something else? Was it damage control? PR. Remember, Epstein denied ever being banned? So we're left with these conflicting accounts, which makes it even harder to figure out the truth.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle where half the pieces are missing and the other half are from a completely different puzzle.
Exactly. And then there's another piece to this puzzle that makes things even more complicated.
Ugh.
Roger Stone,
Oh, boy.
the infamous political strategist and former Trump advisor. Well, in his book, Stone claims that Trump himself saw a gathering of what seemed like underage girls at Epstein's Palm Beach home.
Wow.
That Trump was uncomfortable. He even joked that Epstein was letting the neighborhood kids use his pool.
Hold on. Roger Stone, the guy known for his, let's just say, colorful reputation. Isn't his credibility a little questionable?
Oh, his credibility has definitely been questioned. But his account adds another layer of intrigue to this already complicated story.
For sure. So did Trump really feel uncomfortable, or was he just trying to downplay his association with Epstein as things were starting to get messy?
Right. That's tough to say.
Okay, so we've got these whispers of inappropriate behavior, a bitter real estate rivalry that might have ended their friendship, and then a whole lot of unanswered questions. But this saga is far from over, folks. Stick with us, because we're about to dive into the aftermath of Epstein's arrest and Trump's very public attempts to distance himself.
It's going to be a wild ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like watching a train wreck in slow motion. It's coming, but you can't look away.
Right.
As Epstein's legal trouble started piling up Trump's public statements, they really started focusing on distancing himself.
Yeah, he went into full damage control mode,
Yeah.
trying to erase any connection to Epstein,
Right.
even though they were practically joined at the hip for years.
Exactly. And when Epstein was arrested in 2019, Trump was very vocal about this alleged falling out. He kept saying they hadn't spoken in 15 years and even said that he wasn't a fan of Epstein.
But here's the thing. Actions speak louder than words. Did Trump actually cut ties with Epstein when those whispers of inappropriate behavior started circulating? Or was he still associating with him up until the arrest?
That's the million-dollar question. And unfortunately, the answer isn't clear-cut. We have those conflicting accounts about the alleged Mar-a-Lago ban,
Right.
but no concrete evidence to prove or disprove it. It's a classic he said, she said.
So it's possible that Trump was still in contact with Epstein, at least to some degree, even after those red flags started popping up. That's pretty damning considering the severity of Epstein's crimes.
It definitely raises questions about Trump's judgment and his willingness to overlook potentially problematic behavior, especially given his public statements condemning Epstein after the arrest.
Right. It's like he's trying to have it both ways.
Yeah.
Denouncing Epstein publicly, but also downplaying their past association.
And that's where the story takes another weird turn. While he's publicly distancing himself from Epstein, Trump wished Ghislaine Maxwell well when she was arrested.
Wait, seriously. He wished Ghislaine Maxwell well, Epstein's alleged accomplice. What was he thinking?
It's baffling. Here he is trying to distance himself from Epstein, yet he's publicly expressing goodwill towards someone deeply implicated in the same crimes.
Yeah, it just doesn't add up. It's like he's playing some kind of 4D chess game that nobody else understands. But wait, there's more, right? What about that whole campaign jet debacle?
Oh, yeah, that was a doozy. The Trump campaign accidentally chartered a jet that was previously owned by, you guessed it, Jeffrey Epstein.
You can't make this stuff up. A jet previously owned by Epstein. Talk about an awkward coincidence. How do you even explain that away?
The campaign claimed it was just an oversight, but come on, that's a tough one to swallow. It just shows how deeply intertwined Trump's world was with Epstein's world, despite his attempts to downplay their connection.
It's almost like they were destined to be linked together, even if it was through a series of unfortunate events. But this is where we have to ask ourselves, is it all just a series of coincidences? Or is there something more going on here?
That's the question that keeps swirling around this whole saga. Was Trump really unaware of the extent of Epstein's crimes? Or was he willfully ignorant, choosing to turn a blind eye to protect his own image and reputation?
It's a puzzle with a lot of missing pieces, and we may never know the full truth. But this deep dive gives us a glimpse into the complex web of relationships, power dynamics, and questionable choices that defined the Trump-Epstein saga. Okay, so we've got this web of connections, this bitter rivalry, and some seriously questionable judgment calls. But what does it all mean? What's the takeaway from all of this?
Well, one thing it reminds us is that power and influence often operate in a world with its own set of rules.
Yeah, it's a world where appearances matter more than substance.
You're right.
Where connections can open doors that would otherwise remain closed.
Absolutely.
And where it's often easier to look the other way than to confront uncomfortable truths.
It is. And this deep dive also highlights the importance of critical thinking. You know, we can't just take public statements at face value.
Especially when those statements are coming from people who have a vested interest in protecting their own reputation.
Right, exactly. You have to consider the context, the timing, the motivations behind the words.
So we need to be skeptical. Question everything.
Yeah.
Look for those inconsistencies that might reveal a different story than the one being presented.
That's right. In this case, Trump's public statements distancing himself from Epstein, they have to be weighed against his actions, his past associations, and those lingering connections that just won't seem to go away.
It's like trying to solve a puzzle where the pieces keep changing shape right in front of you.
It is.
It's frustrating.
Right.
It's confusing, and it leaves you with more questions than answers.
But that's the nature of these complex real-life sagas. There's rarely a clear-cut answer, a definitive truth. It's up to us to analyze the information, weigh the evidence, and come to our own conclusions.
So what's your final verdict on the Trump-Epstein relationship? Was it a genuine friendship that soured? A calculated partnership that went too far? Or something else entirely?
Honestly, it's probably a combination of factors. You know, there's a good chance there was a real connection at some point, driven by shared interests and a desire to be in those elite circles. But as Epstein's darker side became more and more apparent, the dynamic shifted. The rivalry, the distancing, the carefully crafted narratives, it all points to a pretty desperate attempt to control the narrative and minimize the damage.
Yeah, it's a story that's both fascinating and unsettling.
I agree.
A reminder that the world of the rich and powerful often operates by its own set of rules. But hey, deep divers, that's what we're here for, right? To peel back those layers, uncover the hidden truths, and make sense of it all.
And to encourage critical thinking,
Yeah,
to
yeah.
question everything, and to
Yeah.
never stop seeking the truth, no matter how elusive it may seem.
Well said. So, deep divers, what are your thoughts on this twisted tale? Did we miss anything? What stood out to you? Let's keep the conversation going in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this deep dive with your friends. Until next time.